Max, we also have new reporting that U.S. national security officials may have to clear this potential deal. What exactly would U.S. security officials have to do with this?
Well, as I said the other day, the issue is that with the Trump administration, where it's not totally clear how CFIUS, which is the government body that regulates this sort of thing, foreign investments in U.S. companies, would treat something like this. Earlier this year, the Trump administration basically stopped the Broadcom-Qualcomm deal on national security grounds. The idea being that if Qualcomm were taken over, it would somehow hurt the U.S., hurt our interest. And you could imagine a similar argument being made with electric vehicles and especially batteries, because Tesla obviously, has a big chunk of the total electric vehicle production, at least definitely in the U.S., and plans to have a huge amount of battery production. So you could imagine that being an issue, and it's just going to be one of many headaches that Tesla and Elon Musk will have to deal with over the coming weeks, months, maybe even years.
Meantime, this report on the SEC sending a subpoena. David, walk us through the continued hurdles that remain to getting a deal done.
Yeah, so Elon has a lot of things he has to get done here. First of all, this issue with the SEC seems to just be getting worse. And if this does mean that they're opening an official investigation, as Max was saying, you have CFIUS, now you've got this. It will take a long time to wind through all of this unless the SEC quickly concludes that he didn't do anything wrong. There are some shareholder lawsuits out there. He was sued when they did the Solar City deal. That is when Tesla acquired Solar City in 2016. That didn't hold things up then, but this is now related to whether or not he had funding lined up and whether or not he manipulated the stock. So these lawsuits are sort of running in parallel with what the SEC is doing. Again, more hurdles for him that could take time. And then look, he's got to get a number of shareholders, in his own words, about 2/3 of them, to agree to exchange their public shares for a private holding, something less liquid and something that is controlled by a man who obviously doesn't like scrutiny and may not be as, well, certainly won't be as transparent once this company is private. So he's got to do that just to get to the point where he can convince the Saudis or others to buy out those who don't want to go along with him. A lot of steps here that are both market-oriented and legal that he's got to get done just to get to the point where he can really push the deal ahead.
Meantime, Max, the board is under even more scrutiny, and looking at some of the board dynamics, Musk has said he will, abstain from these discussions, as will his brother, who's also on the Tesla board. You've also got some Tesla board members who are also on the board of SpaceX. There are reports that the Tesla board is lawyering up. Talk to us about the very complicated board dynamics here.
Yeah, so I mean, even in a normal buyout situation, this would be sort of rough, right? Because the CEO has kind of a huge amount of control and influence over the company, and it's hard to have an arm's length transaction. This situation is worse for two reasons. First, because Elon Musk is so central to Tesla's valuation. If he were to resign or be pushed out, you'd imagine that the stock price would probably fall because a lot of people believe that he's crucial to this company's future. The second problem is this board makeup, as you were saying, where a majority of the board members have, very close connections to Elon Musk. So it's hard to imagine how they're going to evaluate this transaction objectively, and you could imagine, further lawsuits from disgruntled shareholders who maybe say that this is, they're not getting the best deal possible. On the other hand, we're not seeing any deals right now. It's not clear that that there's enough funding to make this original deal possible. So we may be getting ahead of ourselves a little bit.
Meantime, David, you have a new story out about the leverage that the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund now has as a result of Musk revealing that they would be such a big part of this, at the same time that we're in the middle of an administration that is working to limit the investment of foreign stakeholders in U.S. technology. How does this add an additional really big wrinkle?
So, yeah, this gets very interesting. So the Saudis already, according to Elon, have close to 5% in Tesla. And the Sovereign Wealth Fund would, According to Elon, he strongly hinted in his letter they would take on a bigger stake to help them take the company private, and he's been talking to them since 2017 about doing that. One analyst estimates that they could end up with a stake as large as Elon's, around 20%. If that happens, sure, he's out of the public markets. He doesn't have he doesn't have a bunch of short sellers sniping at him on social media and analysts asking questions on earnings calls. But what he does have is now a new shareholder sitting on his shoulder that's got a stake potentially as large as his. Now, the Saudis aren't like Bill Ackman. They aren't like Carl Icahn in the sense that they're going to tell him how to run a company. But you look at some of the investments they've made, they do often like those companies to make investments or hire people in Saudi Arabia. That's part of what they do, is bring technology, bring knowledge, bring jobs into the kingdom. You could see maybe pressure on Elon to build a gigafactory in Saudi Arabia. That's one thing that an analyst speculated about, but they're going to want something in exchange for helping him with this big project.